News Talk WJAG 780 AM and locally at 105.9 FM. I'm Cody Ronveld and pleased to be talking with Congressman Jeff Fortenberry. And Congressman, how are you today?
Well, fine, Cody. Thank you for talking to me. I really appreciate the opportunity to share some thoughts and ideas with your listeners. This is such a traumatic time for America, and there's such widespread suffering. It's just good to constantly have the dialogue in the media, and I appreciate your time.
Of course, and yeah, we always appreciate your time as well. Always like to have you on, but of course, yeah, I want to talk about the coronavirus today. I mean, it's been around for a couple of months now, and so I guess everyone's knows a lot about it and wearing their face masks and trying to be as cautious as possible out there in the public. But so far, I guess, what are your thoughts on how the government and Americans are dealing with this crisis?
Well, from a governmental perspective, from a societal perspective, we're trying to do two things at once: protect our healthcare system and assure economic well-being. And it's a very delicate balance here to make sure that we are properly social distancing, that we are compliant with the certain rules that the government has put out in terms of closures in order to stop the spread of the disease, while we have time to promote the right types of sanitation processes, the right types of potential treatments that should be forthcoming soon. And at the same time, at the federal level, we've undertaken a massive intervention in the economy, particularly for small businesses through the Paycheck protection program, which, by the way, Nebraska leads on a per capita basis. I'm really proud of our state. There's so many people working hard with their own two hands to make things, to grow things, and this Paycheck protection program has just been a bipartisan lifesaver for so many to keep people employed, to keep working as we fight our way through this virus.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you mentioned there the Paycheck Protection Program. Yeah, it's been vital to Nebraska, to the nation in general, but especially to Nebraskans and these small businesses and these small communities where if we didn't have this program, they might be shut down for good, right?
Yes, and that's the entire point. Even though people might be at home working remotely or having hours cut back, to still maintain the payroll, to be on the payroll, to help families with their economic well-being, to help small businesses get through this critical period with a bit of a subsidy through a loan, which is forgivable, the portion of which goes toward wages is forgivable. In other words, it's a grant from the government. This has just been a huge, huge effort, mostly targeted at small businesses, in order to keep the economy afloat and to keep families and communities whole. It's not the fullness of an answer, but it's very, very important program at the federal level. It's been hugely, I don't want to say successful, but it's hugely beneficial, if you will, toward Nebraska businesses. I'm really, again, proud of our state for rapidly implementing this program and, as I said, leading the nation in per capita loans. The reasons for that are many, but recognizing early on that this program could be such a benefit in working with small business associations to get the word out, plus the excellent community banking infrastructure that we have in our state. Bankers, credit unions, CPAs, others have an important relationship with their customers, with the farmer, the small business owner. The banker knows the cafe owner, the banker knows the farmer, the banker knows the barber. The banker is almost an extension, if you will, of the business versus kind of an adversarial transactional relationship between big banks and customers that you're seeing in other places. That's why big banks were slow to respond. Mm-hmm. So, again, Nebraska has the pieces in place with the relationships in the community, good financial infrastructure, plus getting this word out quickly. I think it all served our purpose as well. Again, it's not the fullness of an answer, but it's an important, critical component of keeping our state whole as we work through this crisis.
Of course, and I know Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she's talked about more funding maybe for this program, but for Americans in general. Do you expect any traction on that there in Congress?
Well, we've had three bills. The last one, called the CARES Act, was the big lift, the $2.2 trillion, unprecedented emergency spending. The spending is harsh. It's harsh to swallow, but I looked at this more through the lens of an investment, of trying to protect our healthcare system, protect individuals and families, and protect small businesses. So we're seeing, to the degree that we can call it, again, successful, we're seeing it be extraordinarily beneficial to our hospital sector who are treating people, to individuals and families who may have had real serious economic decline with the paychecks that are coming to them, the economic subsidy, and then again the small business through the Paycheck Protection Program. The next debate will be about state and local governments. There are many state and local governments that have had serious sales tax revenue decline, and it is a serious problem through no fault of either the state or the local communities. So I'm very sympathetic to potentially helping there. We already have $150 billion that are available to states. Myself and Congressman Don Bacon appealed directly to the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin about loosening those restrictions to help pay for fire and police and first responders, and that's underway. So I'm hopeful that is a benefit to local communities, but yes, at the national level, there'll be a much larger debate coming as to what's the appropriate next tranche, next program to help state and local governments. And then there's a serious issue as well regarding what's the liability that a business will have. Let's say a business has a best practices implemented, they've done everything right, somebody gets sick, should they be sued? And I don't think so. We have to be Americans here in solidarity with one another, and so providing some protections for institutions that have done the right thing is also a necessary next step.
Mm-hmm. And of course, agriculture it's big here in Nebraska, and of course want to support those ag producers and have some federal relief for those ag producers, right?
Yes, it's a very important point, Cody. And for those of us who live in farm country, we understand this. A lot of America doesn't anymore, but we grow America's food. And when you don't have an adequate or you have an unsafe or disrupted food supply, the whole basis of society evaporates really quickly. So ensuring that we have a safe and abundant food supply ultimately is up to the farmer. We have many long programs to provide security for farmers and ranchers. But in this pandemic, you've seen what's happening. So about 2 weeks ago now, the Secretary of Agriculture announced a new program about nearly $20 billion of spending of direct assistance support for farmers and ranchers, those in the agricultural sector who are growing food, plus those who have food insecurity issues, and so that we're not wasting anything. I'm the ranking member of the Agricultural Subcommittee on Appropriations in Congress, so we are in direct dialogue very frequently with Secretary Perdue at USDA. We anticipated that there might be COVID problems at some of the meatpacking institutions. As you've seen, it's swept upon them very, very easily. And this, again, hopefully does not only temporarily cause some difficulties in the meat supply, but you have seen disruptions there, and it's a serious problem.
Of course, and yeah, the one in Tyson Foods, it's temporarily closing there to kind of do a deep clean and assess all the cases, COVID cases that are there. Hopefully that can get reopened, but of course, while it is closed, you have all these livestock producers with animals, and in this case pigs, that are wanting that they want to put their animals through there, and so that then again hurts the ag producers, right?
It's a serious problem. It's a bottleneck. You cannot put your livestock that are ready for slaughter on hold for very long. You can for a little while, but you can't for a long time. Plus, the declining prices that are going to producers is really, this was a problem before the pandemic, but now it's become much more serious. This morning, we got word from one of the producers in Cumming County losing $400 a head on the last steer that was butchered. That's not sustainable. So the direct payment support to livestock producers and others in the ag sector will be of some help. That's over $16 billion that is coming online shortly. Farmers have access to the traditional SBA loan program as well, and other emergency assistance through USDA. And hopefully these large-scale meat packers have learned an important lesson about keeping their people safe and implementing best hygiene practices and getting aggressive in their micro-community about how to prevent the disease spread, and working with the broader community such as Norfolk to ensure that this doesn't go beyond just inside the institutions itself. So hopefully, again, people are safe, they're getting proper treatment. the response of the meatpacking industry to deep clean and get people back to work safely happens in the near term, and then we can unclog this choked up slaughter capacity that now is tanking prices.
Of course.
I should add one more thing. There is an investigation supported by me at the USDA as to whether there's been any sort of collusion between the large meat packers as prices have gone up in the grocery store, but the amount of support price to the producer has gone significantly down.
Of course, yeah, definitely be looking at that there. But before I let you go, I want to talk about a coronavirus survey that you recently did. I seen that on your Twitter page, and was kind of interesting to see the results, and of course encourage people to view that, right?
Yes, every week I do a Fort report. It's available on my website, fortenberry.house.gov. Last week, as I was thinking through the topic, I thought, let me just send the members of the community, my constituents, an email asking them to participate in this survey as to what they're seeing, what their thoughts are. And it was a very large email that went out to everyone. Thousands of people responded, which is a good number. It's not necessarily a scientific survey, but nonetheless, the level of response was so big. 16% of people said they were unemployed. About 60% of people said the virus has affected them either through significant disruption or serious disruption. Now, this is an interesting statistic as well. About 60% of people, though, said that they wanted to see things reopened with appropriate and aggressive protections for those who are in vulnerable circumstances. Those were the key findings.
Of course, and so yeah, I'm sure from your guys' end, you'll take a look at that and reinforce that there in Washington, and maybe even to state government here in Nebraska, right?
Absolutely. This is why I sent it to the media. I thought it was very important information. It's a snapshot of where people are. There has been serious economic disruption and disruption to people's personal lives. Nebraskans are very compliant and are good citizens. They readily adhere to reasonable requests from their government. But as we move toward what I call a soft opening here, where things come back somewhat to normal, it should be segmented so that those who are in nursing homes or veteran homes, or those who have underlying conditions that make them perhaps more vulnerable, they need to take extra precautions and perhaps need to be in isolation so that they don't get sick. In the meanwhile, that buys us time for the possibility of better treatments. We're moving in that direction. Our own Nebraska Med Center is becoming a leader in this space nationally. They already were a leader in infectious disease science. We have helped them through the Ebola epidemic earlier, and they're well positioned to lead the nation on best practices to stop this pernicious coronavirus, which has caused so much trauma and so much suffering to so many. But we're America, we'll fight back through this. There's no immediate, simple solution. It's complex and hard, and there's so much suffering. But I think this 1-2 step of assuring our health care is sound and assuring our economic well-being is in place is the key to getting us back to normalcy.
Of course, good point there you make there. But like I said, we've been talking with Congressman Jeff Fortenberry, just getting his thoughts on the coronavirus up until this point, and of course about livestock producers and the food processing plants as well, and everything going on with that. But Congressman, anything else you want to add today?
Only that we're here to help. Whether a person is unemployed, or maybe didn't get their paycheck, their economic stimulus paycheck, or having problems with the Paycheck protection program if they're a small business, or any other consideration. My staff and I, we're here to help. Please call us.